Do you know how one quiet moment can change everything without warning? Do you know how a single knock can bring back a memory you thought was gone forever? Do you know how a door opened at midnight can reveal a truth that shakes the entire heart? Sandra Bullock felt all of this the moment she heard the soft knock on her front door. It was past midnight, and her home rested in a deep stillness that usually brought her comfort. But tonight the silence felt heavier. She had wrapped up a long day, one spent wrestling with thoughts she tried to ignore. She had laughed during interviews, smiled through a charity event, and thanked everyone with grace, but inside she felt something unsettled, something she could not name. Her heart carried a weight she had been avoiding for years, and she did not understand why it felt so strong on this particular night. She had just settled into her couch, a warm blanket wrapped around her, a cup of tea cooling beside her when the knock echoed again. It was not loud. It was not urgent. It was slow, deliberate, almost hesitant. The kind of knock that belonged to someone unsure if they should be there at all. She froze. For a moment she wondered if it was the wind or a branch or some small mistake of the night, but then it came again. 3 gentle knocks, steady, familiar. Her heart tightened. She tried to think of who would come at this hour. Neighbors would not. Friends would not. Assistants and managers always called before even thinking of visiting. And besides, everyone she knew understood that Sandra valued her quiet nights. She never invited unexpected company, especially not at midnight. She stood up slowly, every step to the door feeling heavier than it should. A part of her felt nervous, another part curious, and a deeper part carried a strange sense of recognition she could not explain. As she approached, she noticed something even more unsettling. She did not feel afraid. She felt something else, something she had not felt in a long time. When she finally reached the door, she hesitated. Her hand hovered near the handle. She took a slow breath and whispered to herself that she was probably imagining things. Maybe it was a delivery mistake. Maybe someone lost their way. Maybe it was nothing significant at all. But the moment she opened the door, every thought vanished. Keanu Reeves stood on her porch. He stood there quietly, hands in his pockets, shoulders slightly tense, eyes softer than she had ever seen them. The warm porch light gently touched his face, revealing something she could not place, something deeper than sadness, more intense than nostalgia, something that pulled her breath from her chest. She did not speak, she could not. She felt frozen, stunned, confused, and yet deeply moved. She had not seen him like this in years. She had spoken to him. She had crossed paths with him at events. They had shared smiles and polite conversations. But this was different. This was the Keanu she once knew, the one she shared long talks with during endless movie shoots, the one who listened quietly but understood deeply, the one whose presence felt like calm in human form. He spoke first, his voice gentle and steady. "Hi, Sandra. I hope I did not wake you." She tried to answer, but her throat tightened. Her mind had 1,000 questions racing at once, each one louder than the last. Why was he here? Why now? Why did he look this way? Why did her heart react before her voice could catch up? She stepped back and motioned him inside. She did not think about it. Her body moved before she made a decision. He walked in slowly, glancing around her home as if stepping into a memory he had carried for years. She closed the door behind them, the soft click echoing in the quiet house. She took a breath and finally asked the question she had to ask. "Keanu, what happened?" He looked down for a moment, then at her. His eyes held something she had not seen since they were young actors sharing quiet conversations between scenes. There was kindness, yes. There was warmth, but there was also something heavier, something he had carried alone. "I needed to talk to you," he said softly, "and I did not know where else to go at this hour." Those words struck her in a way she did not expect. Keanu was not someone who needed people often. He supported everyone, he comforted everyone, he showed up for everyone, but he rarely asked anything for himself. He rarely appeared vulnerable. He carried his emotions in silence, in stillness, in small gestures that only those who truly knew him could understand. She led him to the living room. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, though close enough to feel each other's presence. Her tea had gone cold, but she did not care. Her heart felt nervous and steady at the same time. "Tell me," she said, "whatever it is." He leaned back, exhaled slowly, and rested his hands on his knees. She could see the tension in his posture. Something was deeply troubling him, and he was struggling to find the right way to begin. "I had a dream tonight," he finally said. "It was so real I could not shake it, and when I woke up, I felt something I have not felt in a long time. I felt like I needed to see you." Her breath caught for a moment. She did not know why his words struck her so deeply. Maybe it was the honesty in them. Maybe it was the quiet vulnerability. Maybe it was the years of distance wrapped around unresolved emotions. "What kind of dream?" she whispered. He looked at her and she saw the truth in his eyes. He was not here for something small. He was here because something had shaken him to his core. "It was about us," he said. Her heartbeat stumbled. She did not move. She did not speak. The room felt smaller, quieter, heavier. "We were older," he continued. "Much older, and in the dream, I realized I never told you something important, something I should have said years ago." She swallowed, unsure if she wanted him to continue, or if she needed him to stop before her heart tangled itself too deeply. "Keanu, what did you want to tell me?" He looked at her, eyes sincere and steady, his voice barely above a whisper. "That I never stopped caring about you, even when life took us in different directions. I never said it. I never showed it the right way, and in the dream, I lost the chance forever. It felt so real that I could not stay home. I needed to see you. I needed to know if I had already lost the chance in real life too." Her chest tightened in a way she had not expected. She felt warmth rising in her eyes, a soft tremble in her hands. She had waited years for him to say something even close to this, even when she pretended she had not. She had missed him more deeply than she ever admitted. But before she could answer, before she could let her heart speak, something unexpected shifted in his expression. His eyes flickered with hesitation, almost fear. "But that is not the whole reason," he said softly. "There is something else, something I have not told anyone, something I should have told you years ago." She leaned closer, every sense awake. "Keanu, what is it?" He looked down at his hands, then back at her. His voice grew even quieter. "There is a truth between us that you do not know. Something important happened years ago, something that might change the way you see everything." Her breath froze. "Keanu, what truth?" He took a deep breath, gathering strength, but just as he opened his mouth to reveal it, a sudden, sharp knock hit the door. Not gentle, not hesitant, loud, urgent. 3 heavy knocks that cut through the room like a warning. Keanu froze. Sandra's heart slammed against her ribs. And without a word, he stood up. His face changed. Completely. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The midnight truth he came to reveal was not the only thing waiting in the shadows. Do you know how one sudden sound can steal every breath from a quiet room? Do you know how fear rises when you sense that something unspoken is finally catching up? Do you know how a secret feels when it stands right outside the door waiting to be heard? The loud knocks echoed through Sandra Bullock's home, cutting sharply through the calm space that just moments ago held a fragile confession. She froze where she sat, her hands gripping the blanket beneath her, her heart beating too quickly to steady. Keanu Reeves stood completely still, his posture tense, his eyes fixed on the front door as if he already knew what waited on the other side. The difference in him was immediate. The warmth in his expression had vanished, replaced by something alert, guarded, and deeply serious. Sandra had seen Keanu quiet before, reflective before, even sad before, but she had never seen him like this. This was someone ready for impact, someone who had been expecting something troubling and hoped it would never arrive. The air tightened. The silence between the knocks felt heavier than the knocks themselves. Sandra could not stop staring at him. She spoke in a faint voice, her words trembling. "Keanu, who is that?" He did not answer. He did not move toward the door. Instead, he took a slow breath, the kind that comes from someone trying to make a difficult decision. After a few seconds, he finally looked at her, and she saw the conflict inside him, the weight of something he had carried far too long. The knocks came again, louder this time. Keanu closed his eyes for a moment as if steadying himself. Then he whispered, "I need you to stay here." She stood immediately. "No, I am not letting you face something alone when you came here in the middle of the night. Tell me who it is." Keanu shook his head gently, the tension in his face clear. "Sandra, please, trust me. Just stay here for a moment." But she stepped closer instead of backing away. Her voice was firmer now, touched by fear and determination. "Keanu, you showed up at midnight with something heavy on your mind. You told me there is a truth between us that I don't know, and now someone is pounding on my door while you look like you have seen a ghost. I am not stepping aside." He watched her for a long moment and something softened in his eyes. He admired her courage. He always had. but at the same time he was afraid of what involving her might mean. He swallowed and whispered, "This is exactly what I tried to avoid." Before she could ask what he meant, the knocking stopped. The sudden silence made her skin prickle. She felt the pressure of it in the air, like a held breath waiting to explode. Then came a voice from the other side of the door. A voice neither of them expected. "Keanu, open the door. I know you are in there." Sandra's eyes widened. The voice was male, steady, forceful, and far too sure of itself. She glanced at Keanu in disbelief. He stood rigid, his jaw tense, his eyes locked on the door with a look she had never seen from him. "Keanu, who is that?" she whispered again. He did not answer immediately. He took a few slow steps toward the hallway, then stopped. He turned slightly, his expression filled with a regret so deep it made Sandra's stomach twist. "Someone from my past," he finally said. "Someone who should not be here." The voice came again, louder this time, impatience slicing through it. "Keanu, open the door now. We need to talk. You have avoided this long enough." Sandra's heartbeat stumbled. She did not know who this man was, how he knew Keanu was inside, why he was here at midnight, or what kind of unfinished conversation could possibly drag Keanu to her home without warning. Keanu walked back toward her, his steps slow and heavy, his breathing deeper than normal. He touched her arm gently, a gesture full of fear and reassurance at the same time. "Listen to me," he said softly. "This is not about danger. It is about something I have been trying to handle quietly, something that should never have reached your home. I am sorry." She stared at him, feeling a strange mix of fear, confusion, and something else she hated to admit. She was afraid of losing him again, afraid that whatever waited outside would pull him away before she understood what truly brought him here tonight. "Keanu, tell me the truth," she whispered. "Why is he here?" He opened his mouth, but before he could answer, the doorknob shifted. Not forced, not broken, just tested lightly, someone trying to see if it was unlocked. Keanu moved instantly, placing himself between her and the door. His protective instinct was so quick and natural that Sandra felt a shock run through her. He stood tall, steady, silent, blocking her from view. "Keanu," the voice said again, now firmer, "I am not leaving without speaking to you." Keanu exhaled slowly, then turned his head slightly toward Sandra without breaking his stance. "Stay behind me," he whispered, "no matter what." She could barely breathe. She should have been terrified. But something in Keanu's tone, the quiet authority of it, the steady calm, made her trust him completely. The knocking stopped. Silence filled every corner of the house. Finally, Keanu stepped forward and opened the door just enough to stand in the doorway. Sandra stayed slightly behind the wall, close enough to see but far enough to remain unseen. The man standing outside was in his 40s, tall, sharply dressed, and carrying a presence that immediately filled the porch with unease. He did not look angry. He looked determined, and he looked like he knew Keanu very well. The man took one small step forward, but Keanu blocked him from entering. "You should not be here," Keanu said quietly. The man smirked, a mix of irritation and exhaustion. "I had no choice. You have ignored every call, every message, every request. I warned you I would find you if you kept hiding." Keanu's jaw tightened. "I am not hiding." The man looked past him slightly, as if trying to see inside. "Then why did you come here instead of meeting me like you were supposed to?" The words stung deeper in Sandra than she expected. Keanu had chosen her house instead of meeting this man. She did not understand why, but that choice meant something important. Keanu stepped further outside and pulled the door closer behind him to shield her. "I came here because I needed clarity before I gave you an answer." The man raised an eyebrow. "From her?" Keanu did not respond. The man crossed his arms. "You think she can fix this? You think she will make your decision easier? Keanu, this is bigger than an old friend. This affects everything." Sandra felt her stomach drop. "Old friend. Decision. Affects everything." She pressed a hand to the wall to steady herself. Keanu lowered his voice. "She does not know yet, and you are not saying a word to her." The man scoffed. "You should have told her years ago. You should have told everyone years ago, but you chose silence, and now silence is not an option anymore." Keanu clenched his fists at his sides, trying to remain calm. "This is my life, my choice. You do not get to decide when I speak." The man stepped closer, invading his space. I do when your choice impacts more than just you. You think the past disappears because you stopped talking about it, but it did not disappear. It grew. And now the consequences are here, Keanu. They are real. Sandra suddenly realized she was holding her breath. The past. Consequences. A truth she did not know. Keanu had not come here only because of a dream. The man's voice softened slightly, but the tension remained sharp. Keanu, if you do not handle this now, someone else will, and they will not be as patient as I am. Keanu's shoulders twitched, a flash of anger slipping through his calm exterior. Stop threatening me. I am not threatening you, the man replied firmly. I am warning you, you cannot run from this anymore. You owe it to yourself, and you owe it to her. Her? Sandra felt her knees weaken. Was that her? Or someone else? Keanu closed his eyes, a moment of pain passing through him. I am going to tell her, tonight, everything. The man studied him carefully. Good, because if she hears it from anyone but you, it will break her. Sandra covered her mouth with her hand, her heart pounding hard enough to hurt. She did not know what the truth was, but she knew from the look on Keanu's face that it was something big, something life-changing, something he had been afraid to expose for years. Keanu stepped back, ready to end the conversation. Leave now, I will handle it. The man hesitated, then nodded once. But before he walked away, he said quietly, just remember, Keanu, the truth does not disappear because you fear it. It only grows heavier. Then he turned and disappeared into the night. Keanu waited until he was gone, until the sound of footsteps faded completely, and then he quietly closed the door. He stood there with his back to Sandra, his shoulders heavy, his breath uneven, his hands shaking just slightly. When he finally turned to face her, she saw something she had never seen in him before. Fear. Not fear of danger. Fear of losing her. He tried to speak, but his voice broke on the first word. He lowered his head, struggling to steady himself. Sandra walked toward him slowly, her hands trembling, her heart pulled in too many directions at once. Keanu, she whispered, please tell me what is going on. He lifted his gaze, and the look in his eyes cut through her completely. He stepped closer, guilt and exhaustion written in every line of his expression. There is something I should have told you years ago, he said quietly. Something that connects us in a way you never knew, something I kept hidden because I thought it would protect you. She swallowed hard. Protect me from what? He closed the distance between them until he stood right in front of her. His voice softened, shaking just slightly. From the truth I was too afraid to face. Sandra's heart beat painfully. Keanu, what truth? He breathed in, trembling, finally ready to speak the words that had chased him for years. But before he could say it, a phone rang. Not hers. His. He looked down at the screen, and Sandra saw the name. The same name of the man who stood at her door. Keanu's hand shook. He let the phone ring as he whispered to her. This truth will change everything between us. The phone kept ringing, and neither of them moved. Do you know how a single moment can feel heavier than an entire lifetime? Do you know how silence becomes louder when someone hides a truth too long? Do you know how two people can stand inches apart and still feel the distance created by fear and unfinished honesty? The phone continued ringing in Keanu's hand, its sharp sound cutting through the tension filling Sandra's home. He stared at the screen without answering, his face full of conflict and exhaustion. Sandra watched him closely, her heart trembling at every small shift in his expression. She knew whatever he carried was not small. It was something that had lived inside him for years, something he had protected, avoided, feared, and now could no longer escape. When the phone finally stopped ringing, the silence that followed felt even louder. Keanu lowered the device slowly, his hands trembling just slightly. Sandra stepped closer, her voice quiet but steady. Keanu, you can tell me, whatever it is, I am here. He closed his eyes for a moment, as if steadying himself against the weight of her words. Then he opened them again, and the tired sadness in them made her breath catch. I know you are, he whispered. That is what makes this harder. She frowned softly. Why harder? He looked away, staring at the floor like he was searching for a place to hide the parts of himself he no longer knew how to carry. Because you deserve honesty, and I have not given you that, not for years. She stepped in front of him, refusing to let him retreat. "Keanu, look at me." He did, and what she saw in his eyes made her chest tighten. Regret, fear, a deep longing, and something else she could not name yet. "Start from the beginning," she said softly. "Tell me the truth you've been holding." He swallowed hard, then nodded slowly. He walked to the couch, sat down heavily, and she joined him, close enough to make sure he did not drift back into silence. He ran his hands over his face, gathering his thoughts, then took a slow breath. "This goes back many years," he began. "Long before we grew close, long before we filmed together, long before life took us in different directions." Sandra listened carefully, her body still, her heart unsteady. "There was a person I cared about," he continued softly. "Someone important, someone who trusted me, someone who was connected to both of us in ways you never knew." Sandra felt the first spark of anxiety. Connected to both of us, how? Keanu leaned back and stared at the ceiling for a moment. "Through choices I made, through mistakes I made, through things I should have handled differently." Her pulse quickened. "Keanu, who are you talking about?" He hesitated. She could see the struggle in him. Finally, he whispered, "Someone you crossed paths with, someone whose life changed because of something that happened between me and them." Sandra felt her breath thin. She was trying to understand, but he was giving her pieces without shape. "What happened?" Keanu looked down at his hands again. "I kept a promise to that person, a promise that required silence, a silence that grew bigger than the promise itself." She leaned toward him. "What promise?" He shook his head slowly. "I will tell you, but you need to understand something first." He looked at her, eyes raw and honest. "I never meant to hurt you, not by hiding this, not by keeping you out of something that should have included you." Her heart clenched. "Did you hide something from me because you did not trust me?" His eyes widened with pain. "No, never. I trusted you more than anyone. That was part of the problem." She looked confused. "How is trust a problem?" He breathed out slowly, as if releasing something heavy. "Because trusting you meant letting you in, letting you in meant facing the truth, and I was not ready to face it." Sandra's voice softened. "Keanu, whatever this is, we can face it now." He nodded, though his expression still carried fear. "The man who came to the door," he said. "His name is Daniel. He is involved in something that I was part of years ago, something I walked away from because I knew it was not right for me. But leaving did not erase my involvement. It only delayed the consequences." Sandra felt a shiver run through her. "Was it dangerous?" Keanu shook his head. "Not dangerous, just complicated. Complicated in ways that affected people's lives, including someone very close to you." Her breath caught. "Someone close to me, who?" Keanu looked at her with such sorrow that she already felt the answer before he spoke another word. Then he whispered, "Your sister." The room seemed to tilt. Sandra's stomach dropped. Her hands went cold. She stared at him, her mind racing, searching for something that made sense. "My sister," she repeated softly, barely breathing. "Keanu, what does my sister have to do with any of this?" Keanu's voice shook. "She came to me years ago. She asked for help. She was dealing with something she did not want to worry you about, something she thought she could manage on her own, but she needed someone to guide her through it." Sandra blinked rapidly. "Wait, she never told me anything." "I know," Keanu said quietly, "because she made me promise not to tell you." Sandra felt her chest tighten painfully. Why would she do that? What was she dealing with? Keanu looked at her with a deep sadness. She was struggling with someone who took advantage of her trust, someone she believed cared for her, someone who misled her. She found out the truth too late, and she did not know what to do. She felt ashamed. She felt broken, and she did not want you to see her that way. Sandra closed her eyes, tears threatening to spill. She had always sensed something hidden inside her sister, something unspoken, but her sister had always brushed it off with smiles and jokes. Sandra had no idea it was heavier than she imagined. "Why did she go to you?" Sandra whispered, her voice trembling. "Why not me?" Keanu's expression softened. "Because she knew you were dealing with your own struggles at that time. She did not want to add to your pain. But she trusted me because we had all become close during those years. She felt safe coming to me." Sandra wiped her face quickly. "What did you do for her?" Keanu hesitated, guilt washing over him. "I helped her get away from the man who hurt her. I helped her rebuild her confidence. But there was something else too, something deeper." Sandra looked directly at him. "Tell me." He swallowed hard, then whispered, I stepped into something to protect her. Something involving Daniel. Something I never wanted you to know because I did not want you to worry. But walking away from it later created the problem we face now. Sandra shook her head slightly. Keanu, you are not making sense. What did you step into? I signed an agreement with Daniel, Keanu said slowly. An agreement to ensure your sister got the help she needed, the protection she needed, the resources she needed. And I did it without telling you because she begged me not to. Sandra felt dizzy. What kind of agreement? Keanu exhaled deeply. I agreed to support a project Daniel was running, something he believed would change people's lives. But as I got deeper into it, I realized it was built on pressure, manipulation, and emotional harm. Not intentionally, but as a result of the way they operated. I wanted out, but leaving came with a cost. Sandra's stomach nodded. What cost? Keanu looked into her eyes, and she saw the truth he had been carrying alone for years. The cost was silence, he said quietly. I could not speak publicly about what happened. I could not reveal the agreement. I could not expose the project. And I could not tell you or your sister that leaving put a target on my back. Sandra's voice cracked. Keanu, you carried that alone. He nodded once, because I did not want it touching you. She reached for his hand, her voice trembling. Why didn't you tell me anyway? We were close. We talked about everything. His eyes filled with a deep sadness. That is exactly why I did not tell you, because if I told you, you would have tried to help. And if you tried to help, you would have been pulled into the mess too. And I would rather carry every part of this alone than risk one moment of harm to you. Her heart broke at his words. Keanu, I would have stood with you. He closed his eyes. I know, and that is what terrified me. She squeezed his hand. What does Daniel want now, after all these years? Keanu rubbed his forehead slowly. The project is falling apart. People are demanding answers. Daniel wants me to return to speak publicly to support him to cover the cracks. He thinks if I rejoin, everything will stabilize. But if I do, it will bring everything back, including the truth about your sister's involvement. Sandra felt her breath leave her body. You mean people will know she was hurt? Keanu nodded painfully, and she asked me to make sure that never happened. Silence settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Sandra felt torn between shock, heartbreak, gratitude, and confusion. Her sister had suffered. Keanu had protected her, and both had kept her in the dark. After a long moment, Sandra whispered, Keanu, is that the only truth you came to tell me tonight? He looked at her and she saw there was more, much more. The heaviness in his gaze told her the secret ran deeper than the agreement, deeper than her sister's pain, deeper than Daniel's demands. She braced herself. What else? Keanu's voice trembled as he spoke. The truth is, your sister was not the only reason I stayed involved. Sandra stared at him, her pulse quickening again. He continued, I stayed longer than I should have because I hoped it would help me stay close to you. I thought if I supported the people around you, I could protect you quietly. I could stay connected to you without burdening you. I could be near you without complicating your life. Her breath froze. Keanu looked down, ashamed. And when I realized how deep my feelings were for you, I panicked. I thought I had no right to them. I thought I was already too tangled in things you did not know, so I stepped away before I ruined what we had. Sandra felt tears rise again, but this time they were not from fear. Keanu, she whispered, you stepped away because you cared. He nodded too much, and in all the wrong ways. She shook her head, no, in the most human ways. He looked at her, and his vulnerability cut straight through her. There is still more, he said softly, voice unsteady. Something I never told you, something even Daniel does not know. She held her breath. Keanu, tell me. He looked straight into her eyes, and the truth he had hidden for years finally broke through his silence. The night your sister came to me, she told me something about you, something she said I needed to know, something that changed everything. Sandra's heartbeat stumbled. What did she tell you? Keanu took a breath, and then he whispered a revelation that made Sandra's entire world shift under her feet. She told me you were in love with me. Sandra gasped. Her knees weakened. Her breath vanished. The world around her blurred. And Keanu waited, his eyes filled with fear, hope, and heartbreak all at once. Do you know how one sentence can silence the entire world around you? Do you know how truth can arrive years too late and still feel unbearably sharp? Do you know how two hearts can stand inches apart yet remain separated by fear and timing? Sandra Bullock stood frozen, her breath caught painfully in her chest. Keanu's words echoed in her mind again and again, each repetition hitting harder than the last. She told me you were in love with me. Sandra felt every memory she had ever buried rushing back all at once. Moments on movie sets where his smile pulled her breath away. Late-night conversations where they both lingered longer than necessary. Quiet glances shared in crowded rooms. Long silences that felt safe instead of awkward. The unspoken understanding that lived between them but neither dared to name. But hearing it said aloud, hearing that someone else had seen it, understood it, and told him, was overwhelming in a way she had never prepared for. Her legs felt weak, her heart beat too fast, her throat tightened. Keanu saw the shock in her eyes and immediately regretted speaking, even though it was the truth she needed. His voice softened, filled with apology. Sandra, I know this is a lot. I should have told you earlier. I should have asked you myself instead of believing someone else's words. But when your sister told me you were going through so much, your heart was heavy, you were hurting, and I did not want to make anything more complicated. She swallowed hard, her voice barely forming. When did she tell you? Keanu lowered his gaze. Years ago, before everything fell apart for her, she came to me one night shaking, scared, overwhelmed. She told me what happened with the man who hurt her. She cried for hours. I sat with her until she fell asleep. And just when I thought she had said everything she needed to, she whispered something else. Sandra stared at him, her chest tight. She said, Sandra will never tell you this, Keanu continued softly, but she loves you, and she is afraid of it. Sandra closed her eyes as tears filled them. Her sister had always sensed too much, understood too much. Even when Sandra hid her feelings behind jokes and polite smiles, her sister saw straight through her. She always had. Keanu looked at her again, his voice trembling with the weight of years. Hearing that scared me, not because of you, not because of your feelings, but because I knew I felt something too, something deep, something that had grown slowly over time, something I could not push away. Her breath caught. She had spent years avoiding this truth, convincing herself it was one-sided, convincing herself she was imagining it, convincing herself that Keanu's kindness toward her was just his nature, not something personal. Keanu, she whispered, why did you never say anything? He stood slowly, pacing the room in small, anxious steps. Because I did not think I deserved you, because I thought your life was already complicated enough, because your sister needed protection, and I knew my involvement with her situation would only make me look messy in your eyes, and because Daniel and his project were already becoming a threat. I did not want to pull you into any of it. Sandra rose to her feet too, her voice breaking. But you pulled me into it anyway by not telling me. He stopped walking, as if the words hit him with full force. He turned to her slowly, his face filled with regret. I know, he whispered, and I am sorry. You deserved the truth. She wiped her eyes, her voice trembling as she spoke. Keanu, do you have any idea what it felt like all those years? Feeling something I never said, wondering if I imagined every connection we had. Convincing myself you saw me only as a friend when my heart was telling me something else. Keanu stepped closer, emotion tightening his voice. I felt it too, every single moment. I just did not know how to handle it without causing more pain. She stared at him, overwhelmed by the closeness, the honesty, the years of silence finally breaking open. So you walked away. His breath hitched. Yes, because I thought distance was safer than truth. The room felt too small now, filled with everything they never said, filled with years of hidden feelings colliding all at once. Sandra turned away for a moment, running her hands through her hair, trying to steady herself. Keanu watched her, guilt pulling his shoulders down. After a long silence, she whispered, Keanu, what did you think when Daniel came tonight? He closed his eyes. I thought he would ruin everything. I thought he would reveal the truth before I could say it myself. I thought he would bring all the old mistakes to your door and destroy any chance we had of reconnecting. She looked over her shoulder at him. And now that you did tell me, now what? Keanu hesitated, the uncertainty in his eyes making her heart ache. That depends on you. She frowned gently. Why on me? He stepped closer again, his voice quiet but firm. Because I have loved you for a long time, longer than I should have. deeper than I ever admitted to myself. But I will not ask you for anything, not forgiveness, not a chance, not anything. I just needed you to know the truth." Her breath caught. "Keanu." But he shook his head softly. "No, you deserve your space. You deserve time. I do not want my confession to force your feelings or your decisions. I just needed to stop hiding from you." She took one step toward him. "I never wanted distance between us." He took a small step back, pain flickering across his face. "I know, but distance felt safer than losing you completely." Sandra felt tears rising again, but before she could speak, Keanu's phone buzzed in his hand. The screen lit up with a message from Daniel. She watched Keanu read it, and she saw instantly that something was wrong. His expression shifted. The color drained from his face. His hands tightened around the phone. Sandra's breath quickened. "Keanu, what is it?" He did not answer at first. He swallowed hard, his jaw tightening, a deep panic flickering beneath the surface of his calm. "Keanu," she said again, stepping closer, "what does the message say?" His voice was barely above a whisper. "It says we have a problem." She felt her stomach drop. What kind of problem? He looked directly into her eyes, and she saw something she had never seen in him before. Fear. Real fear. "Your sister," he said softly. "Daniel said she contacted him." Sandra's heart stopped. What? Why would she contact him? Keanu exhaled shakily. Because she thinks he still has power over the agreement, because she does not know everything that happened after she moved on, because she does not know that Daniel's project has become unstable or dangerous. Sandra shook her head in panic. "Wait, dangerous? You said it was complicated, not dangerous." Keanu stepped closer, his voice firmer now. "It was not dangerous when I was there, but now the people involved are desperate, and desperation changes everything. If she reached out to Daniel, she is stepping into something she does not understand." Sandra felt her knees weaken. "Keanu, what do we do?" He moved immediately, taking her hands gently but urgently. "We go to her." She blinked. "Now." "Right now," he said with a sudden steel in his voice. "Before anything escalates, before anyone tries to convince her to do something she might regret." Sandra felt fear rising through her, but Keanu's steady grip grounded her. Why would she call him? She said she was done with all of it. Keanu shook his head. "Pain does not disappear as fast as we pretend. Sometimes when you feel lost, you go back to the places that hurt you because you do not know where else to turn." Her eyes filled with tears. "This is my fault. I should have been there. I should have seen her struggling." Keanu's voice softened immediately. "No, this is not your fault. None of this is your fault." She looked into his eyes, searching for strength. "Then tell me what to do." He squeezed her hands. "You stay close to me, you trust me, and we face this together. Your sister needs both of us, and we are not letting her go through this alone." Sandra felt a surge of relief and fear collide inside her. "Where is she?" Keanu glanced again at the message on his phone. "Daniel said she is at a location connected to the old project, a place she should never have returned to. I know where it is." Sandra's hands trembled. "How far?" 20 minutes, he replied, "but we need to leave now." Without another word, Keanu took her coat from the chair and helped her into it with gentle urgency. Sandra grabbed her phone, her mind racing, her heart pounding. She could barely understand how quickly everything had happened. Midnight had brought Keanu to her door. A confession had shattered their silence. And now her sister was caught in a storm neither of them could ignore. Keanu opened the front door, checking the street carefully, making sure Daniel had truly gone. Then he stepped outside and held the door open for her. Sandra followed him into the cold night, her breath visible in the air, her fear rising. As they walked to the car, Keanu spoke softly but with determination. "Sandra." She looked at him. "No matter what happens tonight," he said gently, "you are not alone. I am here. I am not walking away this time." Her heart squeezed painfully at the promise she had waited years to hear. She nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. "Then let's find her." He opened the passenger door for her, and she stepped inside. He circled around, slid into the driver's seat, and started the engine. The car pulled onto the dark road, the night stretching ahead of them, heavy with fear, truth, and unresolved pieces of their past. Neither of them knew what waited at the destination. Neither of them knew how far the consequences would reach. But both of them knew one thing. Tonight would change everything. Do you know how the night feels heavier when you are racing toward a truth you are afraid to face? Do you know how silence inside a moving car can speak louder than any words? Do you know how two hearts can sit inches apart and feel the fear of losing someone they both care about? The car moved quickly through the quiet streets, headlights cutting through the cold darkness as Keanu drove with a steady intensity Sandra had never seen in him before. Every turn, every breath, every mile felt weighted with urgency. Sandra sat beside him, her hands clenched together in her lap, her mind running through every memory of her sister, trying to understand why she would return to a place connected to pain she fought so hard to escape. Keanu glanced at her occasionally, making sure she was holding on, making sure she was not disappearing into fear. Each time he looked at her, she saw both determination and guilt in his expression, the kind that comes from someone who blamed himself for a situation he could no longer control. Finally, Sandra broke the silence, her voice trembling. "Keanu, what if we are too late?" He shook his head firmly, keeping his eyes on the road. "We are not too late. I will not let that happen. Your sister is stronger than she thinks, but right now she needs us. We are going to get to her in time." She swallowed hard. I still do not understand why she would go back, why she would contact Daniel after everything. Keanu exhaled slowly. When someone carries pain alone for too long, they sometimes return to the last place they felt seen, even if that place hurt them. She probably feels lost. She probably feels like she has no one to turn to, and Daniel knows how to manipulate people when they are vulnerable. Sandra looked out the window, her chest tightening. I should have noticed she was struggling. Keanu's voice softened. You cannot blame yourself. Your sister hid this for years. She did not want you to carry her pain. She thought she was protecting you. Sandra closed her eyes, but she should have come to me. Keanu glanced at her again, his expression gentle. Sometimes people protect the ones they love by keeping their darkest struggles away from them. She did what she thought was best. It does not mean she did not need you. It just means she was scared. Sandra felt tears gather in her eyes. And now she is alone with people who might hurt her again. Keanu reached out and placed his hand over hers, his touch grounding her. She is not alone anymore. We will be there soon. She nodded, breathing slowly, gripping his hand like it was the only steady thing in her world. Keanu squeezed it once, gently, reassuringly. Then he returned his focus to the road. Finally, they turned into an isolated industrial area where dim street lamps flickered and long abandoned buildings cast heavy shadows. Sandra felt her stomach twist. Her sister should never have come to a place like this, especially not at night. Keanu slowed the car, scanning the surroundings with careful eyes. She is here, he said softly. I recognize that building. Sandra looked at the large gray structure ahead, its windows dark, its doors old and rusted. It looked forgotten. It looked unsafe. It looked like a place where painful stories could hide. She whispered, Keanu, why would she come here? He parked the car near the entrance, turning off the engine. Because this is where Daniel used to bring people for meetings, where the first stages of the project took place. She probably came looking for closure, or answers, or help she thought she needed. Sandra felt fear rush through her. We need to get inside. Keanu nodded, already opening his door. Stay close to me, do not walk ahead, trust me. She stepped out into the cold air, shivering slightly, but she stayed right beside him as they approached the building. Keanu pushed the door open slowly, the rusty hinges groaning loudly. The inside was dark, lit only by a faint light coming from deeper within the hallway. The moment they stepped inside, Sandra felt the weight of the place. It carried silence, old memories, and something that felt unsettling. She stayed close to Keanu, their shoulders brushing as they moved through the dim corridor. When they reached a fork in the hallway, they heard something. A voice. Faint trembling. Sandra's heart stopped. That is her. Keanu nodded, placing a reassuring hand on her back. She is this way. They followed the sound until they reached a half-open door. Inside, Sandra saw her sister sitting on a chair, arms wrapped around herself, her face pale, her eyes red from crying. Daniel stood several feet away from her, speaking in a calm but firm tone. You should not have come here alone, he said to her. This was not a smart decision. Sandra felt her anger rise instantly. She rushed toward her sister. Hey, I am here. She knelt beside her, pulling her into a tight embrace. Her sister broke into tears, burying her face in Sandra's shoulder. "I did not know where else to go," she cried. "I felt so confused. Everything came back. I did not want to bother you. I did not want you to see me fall apart again." Sandra held her tighter, her own tears spilling. "You come to me every time. Do you hear me? Every time." Keanu stepped forward, his voice steady and controlled. "Daniel, you should not have contacted her. She came to you because she was vulnerable and you took advantage of that." Daniel raised his eyebrows calmly. "I did not take advantage of anything. She called me. She said she needed to talk." Keanu shook his head. "You know she reaches out when she feels lost. That does not give you the right to pull her back into this." Daniel sighed. "I was trying to help her. I did not expect you to show up." Keanu took another step forward, his voice firmer now. "Why did you tell me we had a problem if you were not planning something?" Daniel hesitated, glancing between them. "Because the project is collapsing. Because people involved are coming to me for answers. Because some of them still remember her name from years ago. I wanted to make sure she did not get caught in the middle if they start digging." Sandra stiffened. "My name? Why would my name be involved?" Daniel looked at her carefully. "You were connected to her, and she was connected to the situation. If the project breaks down publicly, people will look for someone to blame." Keanu clenched his jaw. "And you think they will blame her?" Daniel shrugged slightly. "People blame whoever they can find, whoever they can reach. She is a public figure. She is easy to target. I was trying to make sure she did not get dragged into something she had no control over." Sandra held her sister tighter, her heart pounding. "This is too much. Why did none of you tell me any of this sooner?" Her sister cried harder. "Because I did not want you to worry, because you were already carrying so much, because I did not want you to see me broken." Sandra held her face gently. "You are not broken, do you hear me? You survived something painful and you did it alone, but you never have to be alone again." Her sister nodded weakly, her tears soaking Sandra's shoulder. Daniel cleared his throat. "Look, I did not bring her here to hurt her. I would never do that. But if the project collapses publicly, things will get messy. I wanted to understand why she reached out before someone else did." Keanu looked at him sharply. "This is not her burden anymore. She does not owe anything to your project or your people. If anyone tries to involve her, they will deal with me." Daniel exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "You left the project, Keanu. You have no obligation to defend it anymore." Keanu stepped closer, his voice low and powerful. "I have every obligation to defend her." Sandra felt her breath catch. Her sister looked up between tears. "Wait, defend me. Why?" Keanu knelt beside the sisters, his voice gentle. "Because you are family to Sandra, and Sandra is someone who matters deeply to me. I will protect both of you." Her sister blinked in surprise. Even Daniel looked taken aback. Sandra's heart softened in a way she could not hide. "Keanu." His expression warmed, even in all the tension around them. He reached out, squeezing her hand softly. "You two are not going through this alone anymore. This ends tonight." Daniel watched them quietly, his expression slowly shifting from defensive to understanding. "I can help make sure her name stays out of everything. I can redirect questions. I can handle the people who might talk, but I can only do that if you two trust me for a moment." Sandra stood slowly, her arm around her sister. "Can we trust you?" Daniel sighed. "I am not the villain here. I made mistakes because I believed in something that fell apart, but I never wanted to hurt either of you, and I will make sure no one else does." Keanu watched him closely. "Then you help us keep her safe, and we walk away tonight with no more secrets." Daniel nodded. Sandra looked at her sister, brushing her hair gently. "Let's go home, right now." Her sister nodded, relief flooding her expression. Keanu helped her stand, steadying her like she was fragile glass he refused to let fall. As they walked out of the building together, the cold night air filled Sandra's lungs, clearing her thoughts slightly, though her emotions still swirled painfully. Keanu unlocked the car and helped her sister into the back seat. Sandra slid into the passenger seat slowly, her heart heavy but grateful. Before starting the engine, Keanu turned toward her. "Tonight is not over yet. There is something I still need to tell you. Something I have held back because everything happened too fast." Sandra looked at him, exhausted, trembling. "Keanu, please, no more secrets tonight." He nodded, his eyes soft but serious. I know, that is why I need to tell you this now. She held her breath. He placed his hand over hers gently. The truth is, I never stopped loving you. Her breath shattered. Her heart thudded painfully. She could not speak. She could not move. But he continued softly, his voice trembling. And I am done pretending I can live with that silence. Sandra stared at him, her entire world tilting. Right as she parted her lips to answer, her sister leaned forward from the back seat, tears still in her eyes, and whispered, I always knew. Do you know how the truth feels when it finally surfaces after years of silence? Do you know how love sounds when it is spoken by someone who never believed he deserved to say it? Do you know how the heart breaks open when you realize everything you feared was real and everything you hoped for was also real? The car sat quietly in the cold night, the engine still off, the world outside silent and heavy. Inside, 3 lives hung suspended in a fragile moment that felt bigger than any of them. Sandra Bullock stared at Keanu, her breath unsteady, her heart thundering so loudly that she barely heard her sister's whisper from the back seat. I always knew. Those words broke something inside Sandra, not in a painful way, in a freeing way. She turned slightly, seeing her sister's tired eyes, her trembling smile, her vulnerability, her strength. Her sister had known. She had carried her own pain in silence, yet she had always understood the hidden pieces of Sandra's heart. Sandra whispered softly, You knew for how long? Her sister wiped her face with trembling hands. Since the beginning, since the way you looked at him during the first movie, since the way your voice changed when you talked about him, since the way your heart fell whenever he walked away. Keanu lowered his head slightly at those words, guilt entering his expression again, but Sandra reached out before he could retreat into shame. She touched his hand gently, grounding him. Look at me, she whispered. He lifted his eyes slowly, and the raw emotion in them made her breath catch. He looked like a man standing at the edge of a cliff, finally admitting he wanted to step into the open instead of turning back. She whispered again, Say it one more time. His voice trembled. I love you. Her heart nearly collapsed inside her. Hearing it once had shaken her. Hearing it again broke open something she had buried for years. Keanu continued, his voice soft but steady. I tried not to. I tried to stay away because I was afraid of hurting you, afraid of complicating your life, afraid of losing you if I let myself hope for too much. But none of it worked. I still loved you, every year, every day we spent apart, every time I saw you pretending you were fine. Her eyes filled with tears. Keanu. But he lifted a hand gently, asking her to let him finish. I thought silence was safer. I thought loving you from a distance was the only way to protect you. But tonight I realized that silence is not love. Love is honesty. Love is presence. Love is showing up at midnight because a dream tells you something is missing in your life. Love is being here with you even when everything feels like it is falling apart. She could not hold her tears anymore. They spilled down her cheeks, warm and unstoppable. Her sister leaned back, watching them with quiet relief, as though she had waited years for this truth to unfold. Sandra whispered, I loved you too all this time, and I was afraid too. Keanu reached out and cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing away the tears she did not bother to wipe. You never had to be afraid with me. Her breath shook. Then why did you leave me behind when everything happened with the project? Why did you walk away without giving me a reason? Pain flickered through his eyes. He lowered his hand slightly but kept it close. I walked away because I was ashamed. Because I felt trapped in something I could not fully explain. Because I did not want my mistakes to fall on you or your sister. Because I thought leaving would protect all of us. She shook her head slowly, but leaving hurt me more than the truth could have. He winced, regret tightening his jaw. I know. I see that now. I should have trusted you. I should have believed that we could face things together. But I had spent so much of my life fighting alone that I did not know how to let someone stand beside me. Sandra looked down, her voice quiet. We could have saved each other years ago. Keanu exhaled shakily. Yes, we could have, and that is the part that haunts me. Her sister placed her hand gently on Sandra's shoulder from the back seat. You both lost time, but you are here now, and I am safe because of him, and you are both finally speaking the truth. Keanu glanced back at her sister, gratitude filling his expression. You are safe because you fought your way through something no one should ever face alone. I only walked beside you." Her sister smiled weakly. "But you did walk beside me, and you walked beside Sandra too even when she did not know it." The three of them sat in silence for a moment, breathing in the weight of the night, the truth, the years, the pain, the love. Finally, Keanu spoke, his voice gentle. "We should take her home. She needs rest, she needs warmth, and she needs to know that none of this will come back to hurt her." Sandra nodded. "Yes, let's go." Keanu turned on the engine and began driving through the quiet night. Sandra rested her hand on her sister's, offering comfort and strength. Her sister leaned against the seat, her eyes heavy from exhaustion but no longer trembling with fear. Keanu drove carefully, glancing at both of them through the mirror. The closer they came to Sandra's home, the more the tension in the car eased, replaced by something softer, something hopeful. When they finally reached the house, Keanu stepped out and gently helped her sister walk inside. Sandra followed close behind, making sure she never let go of her sister's hand. Once inside, Sandra guided her sister to the guest room, settling her into bed, covering her with a soft blanket. Her sister looked up at her voice fragile. "Thank you for coming. I was so scared." Sandra brushed her hair gently. "We are here now. Nothing will touch you again." Her sister nodded, finally letting her eyes close, exhaustion pulling her into sleep. Sandra stood there for a moment, watching her breathe steadily, feeling tears rise again. Relief and heartbreak twisted in her chest. She had almost lost her sister to silence, to pain, to old wounds she never saw coming. When she stepped out of the room, she found Keanu waiting quietly in the hallway, leaning against the wall with his hands in his pockets. He looked exhausted too, but he stood tall, watching her gently. "Is she asleep?" he whispered. Sandra nodded, yes. Keanu let out a soft breath of relief. Good. They stood there for a moment, the hallway quiet, the shadows soft around them. Sandra studied his face, the lines of worry, the tenderness in his eyes, the exhaustion and devotion mixed together. Keanu spoke softly, "You should get some rest too." She shook her head slowly. "I cannot rest yet, not while everything still feels so heavy." He stepped closer, his voice warm and steady. "Then let me carry some of that weight with you." She looked at him, her eyes softening. "You already have." He smiled faintly. "I can carry more." They walked together into the living room. Sandra sat down on the couch, and Keanu sat beside her, leaving just enough space for breath but close enough that she could feel his presence. She looked down at her hands, then up at him. "Keanu, what happens now, with Daniel, with the project, with everything?" He leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on his knees. "I will take care of it. I will speak with Daniel. I will make sure your sister's name is never involved. I will clean up what I left behind." She frowned softly. "You do not have to do this alone." He looked at her, warmth entering his eyes. "I know, but I want to because I started this, because I owe it to both of you." She reached out, touching his hand gently, and after that... Keanu turned his hand slowly, lacing his fingers with hers. "After that," he said softly, "if you let me, I want to stay. I want to be part of your life again, not in silence, not in fear, but honestly." Her breath caught. "You mean that?" He nodded, his voice trembling slightly. "More than anything." Sandra felt tears rising again, but this time they were warm, not painful. She leaned slightly toward him, her voice quiet. "Keanu, I do not want distance anymore. I do not want silence. I do not want fear deciding our choices. I want you to stay too." His eyes softened completely. "Then I will." She moved closer, her forehead resting gently against his. "And we start fresh." He nodded slowly. "Yes, together." Their hands stayed intertwined, resting between them, warm and steady. For the first time in years, there was no fear, no secrets, no running. Keanu whispered, his voice full of emotion, "I love you." Sandra whispered back, "I love you too." The past had been heavy, the pain had been real, the silence had lasted too long. But tonight, in the quiet of her home, with her sister safe and Keanu finally beside her, Sandra felt something she had not felt in many years. Peace, and something even stronger. A new beginning.